PumpFun is arguably one of the most controversial and honestly successful innovations in crypto over the last 18 months. And look, if you have any dispute on that fact, the numbers are there to prove you wrong. Your thoughts on meme coins, negative or positive? PumpFun has proven to be one of the most profitable businesses in crypto over the history of crypto, especially given the time span. But they are launching their token this weekend, and I want to go over exactly what I think will happen with this token. Is there a bull case? Is there a bear case? What are the comparison tokens in the market that you could maybe look for similar valuations? And ultimately, what is my strategy to get involved and profit on the PumpFun token? Let's go ahead and jump into it in this video. Before we get into my strategy, go ahead and if you enjoy the content here on the channel, be sure to like the video down below and subscribe to the channel for more every single week here on In the Game. We have you covered from top to bottom: AI, crypto gaming, meme coins, RWAs, airdrops, anything going on in crypto, we have you covered here on the channel. And of course, a big shout out to our sponsors here on the channel. We have some incredible sponsors from 𝗪𝗪𝗙𝗪, Everreach Labs, Blowfin, and NEXUS. So be sure to drop down below and check out all of those, especially NEXUS, because it will come into use in this video. And look, I have to start this video regardless if it's about PumpFun or not. Happy all-time highs. Bitcoin did, just as I'm going live, hit a new all-time high here at $112,725. The market is looking pretty good this week. We look at the weekly charts here, some quality altcoins getting bids as far as some meme coins like MOG, DeFi coins like 𝗕𝗟𝗢, as well as other tokens such as 𝗬𝗎 trading back above $3. We see Hyperlquid back at $42. So the market is definitely in a good place. And I would say it's in a good place for a platform like a PumpFun to go ahead and launch their token. And that is exactly what we are getting. So in this video, I want to go ahead and go over exactly what I plan to be doing here, my target valuations. And I do think this is going to end up being more of a short-term trade. I'm willing to gamble that. Who knows if the meme coin trenches are ever going to get back to where they were, which honestly is exactly why PumpFun is trying to launch their token right now. They have lost a little bit of attention over the course of time as meme coins have cooled off. Just bullish, all the trading platforms volumes that work off of PumpFun tokens, they have seen declines over time. And that is just simply because the amount of liquidity in the trenches has gone down significantly. So that does make sense that now PumpFun is trying to recapture some attention with their token launch. So I don't fault them whatsoever. And to be honest, they are one of the smartest businesses in crypto. And look, the timing, they couldn't have planned this any better. We see going into the weekend here, July 12th is when their ICO is occurring on different platforms. And I'll go over in this video how to get involved, where you can trade this in the pre-markets, as well as my strategy. So let's jump into it. With Bitcoin at all-time highs, and then also when we click the 7-day chart, every single time that tokens rebound, we do see meme coins typically leading the way. You know, stuff like MOG, we see Redo on the TON network, we see Ski over on the Base network. So it's pretty common that meme coins do lead the charge, which does very much line up with their token launch. So we see here, PumpFun says the moment you've all been waiting for, the Pump launch is coming with an initial coin offering on Saturday, July 12th. Airdrop is also coming soon. So our plan is to kill Facebook, TikTok, and Twitch on Solana. Now, that might sound pretty ambitious. We're going to roll through this entire thread, and then I'm going to piece together the thoughts and also just kind of show you how lucrative of a business this is. And if this was to go live on a traditional market, I think there's no way in hell that this would not be a success. So since January 2024, like I said, about 18 months ago, PumpFun sought to become a household name by allowing anyone anywhere to create and trade tokens. It fastly became the fastest growing company in history, achieving 100 mil, 300 mil, and 500 mil in revenue faster than any company in the world. And they definitely, their rise was meteoric whenever it came to revenue. And on top of that, it's going to be integrated in all of their native products. And if you think it's just a token launcher, they are here to say otherwise. Now, let's just go ahead and dive into some of the numbers here we see the distribution of this token is going to be 33% to the ICO. How do you participate in the ICO, you might be asking? So you can do this directly on token.pump.fun, but if you have any of these other, KYC exchanges, KuCoin, Kraken, Bybit, BitGet, Gate, or MEXC, you can also participate in this sale. So there are 7 options here to be able to participate in the pre-sale of this token. And the pre-sale is going live at $4 billion market cap. Yes. You are buying in at $4 billion of market cap. Now, I do want to go and look at where this thing is trading pre-markets currently, where it is sitting at actually a $5.1 billion market cap currently. So I'm going to let the chart load here and we will come back to this. But right now it is trading higher than what the market and what the actual sale is going live at. So that is an interesting caveat. People do think that this is going to go up on launch. And, I've seen a lot of tweets out there, people going short. It was like 4.8 billion this morning. And I've seen a lot of people on the timeline going short, but actually, I do think kind of longing this early bid with so many shorts out there, I think that was definitely a good move. But however, I'll get into what I am thinking here in just a second. So you can participate in the sale on these different centralized exchanges, and we have 33% going to those sales. We also have 24% reserved for the community and for ecosystem incentives. So for this, you're looking at mostly trading volume airdrop. Over the course of time, we've seen platforms like BullX, Photon, etc. always teasing their token, and PumpFun's coming first. They're going to give 24% of the token to the community based off what is presumed to be just their trading volume, 20% to the team, which is it's pretty hefty, especially for a team that has made so much money. You would like that to potentially be lower because it gives more incentive to the project just to continue doing what they do, making revenue on fees. Like, they don't need a token launch to be successful here. They have made so much money as a business. So one thing I dislike is definitely that 20% to the team, because a project like this should probably just be for the culture and for crypto. 2.4% to the ecosystem, 2% for the foundation, that's fine. 13% to existing investors, so they did raise money. There are people who invested in this early. 3% for live streaming, and 2.6% for liquidity and exchanges. Now, this will go live on an ICO, like I mentioned, and there will be an airdrop. So if you have your wallets from any of these platforms, BullX, Photon, Axiom, make sure you export those to a Phantom, for example, so that way you can check if you do qualify for an airdrop. But I do want to go over the bear and bull cases here, because I think there are cases for both. So the bear case is obviously, could this be another Trump? Could the market be rocketing? And if we looked back at the course of history, Bitcoin was doing so well whenever the Trump coin did launch. Solana was at all-time highs almost, or not quite all-time highs, but Solana was 200 plus. We were looking at the meme coin market was hotter than ever. Bitcoin was doing very well. And then Trump came in and launched the Trump meme coin, infamously went up to like $67 billion in one single day and extracted all the liquidity away from the market. Now, there is a case that this could happen, and potentially we do see another liquidity suck. But the one thing here that I think is different is you have access to get into this token. As we see, you can jump in here and get involved on 7 different platforms. Now, yes, it does require KYC. So maybe US investors who can't get in access on different things in here might be annexed from that. And that's just normal. Like, most people have to go through KYC loopholes to get involved anyway. So the one thing about Trump is there was nobody could get involved. So the public has access here. So there's a little bit of a differentiating factor. When Trump went live, it was a shock to everyone, and everyone was rushing to get involved and having FOMO because they literally had zero way to access it, and Trump just tweeted it on a whim. Whereas now we anticipate this. It's not like Trump tweeted, oh, January 19th or whatever the date was that it went live, we are launching Trumpcoin, then it would have played out a lot differently because it wouldn't have gone that same way and risen as quickly as it did if it was pre-announced. And I think similarly here, this is going to be less toxic than the Trump launch just because they did set a date and they are allowing people to get involved early. And on top of that, another factor, there's pre-markets. So obviously there was no pre-market on Trump because it did go live spontaneously. Whereas here we have that speculation. We've seen stuff over time where people are trading these pre-market tokens. And right now the market is going up on this token, but there's abilities to get involved and trade this token even before it goes live. So that is a main differentiating factor here. But the only other thing I'd be worried about is as PumpFun statistics have gone back down from these highs. We're looking at a Dune dashboard here about PumpFun. We see the market caps of tokens at the highs here on PumpFun. We're at about $13.5 billion back during the Memecoin mania. And then we see here $12 billion the day that Trumpcoin launched. And then the trenches have just been killed ever since then. So my only other negative factor here would be the fact that they could be a little bit desperate. And what I mean by that is their revenues are definitely down as far as the accelerated rate that they are making money since these highs. So it makes sense that 6 months later, they've evaluated and said, look, we need to come through with the PumpFun token and be able to recoup some of that money that we lost. We're heading into the backstage of the bull market. People are very parabolic and euphoric about the end of this year. So it could be a good time for them to capitalize on that. And look, they have enough money to pump this token by themselves. No pun intended. But let's get into some of the bull cases because obviously the bull cases, they are one of the most successful companies in all of crypto. They have made so much money hand over fist. Whether you think they are good or bad for crypto, the one thing about this platform is nobody forced your hand to buy these tokens. No one forced your hand to launch a token. But what they did do is they offered up a casino. And look, the house will always win in that perspective. So you can't hate that. And they were one of the most successful businesses in crypto. You have to tip your cap, and I have a cap on, so I'll tip the cap. They created a product, there was demand for the product, and they launched at the perfect time to be able to capitalize on the quote-unquote meme coin super cycle whenever that was at its peak. And we see that they were making money hand over fist on this platform. And you can see this, the daily volume. It's really not as close to what it was whenever they were at their peaks. You can just see all these different statistics here. But at the end of the day, if this token was to go live just based off revenue, it would be way more than probably what we're looking at $4 billion. I mean, this is one of the fastest growing companies, not just in crypto, but just in time. Like they said, it was kind of a unicorn startup in a way, and the fact that they rose so quickly to those revenue numbers, and it's very lean. Like, I don't know their payroll, I don't know their expenses on their staff or their technology, but it really can't be much. You built the product up front, you were able to get it out there, and boom, like you're set from there. And the money coming through, unless they're paying streamers on their platform, for example, that is just pure profit from there. But one thing I think that we're underestimating is the capital that they have. So they want to branch out and really make their live streaming platform something that sticks. And they apparently have some sort of an acquisition coming soon, our first ever acquisition coming soon. So they may have bought some sort of lower level video or streaming platform. Now, I'm not going to speculate or throw names out there, but there are some platforms out there that could maybe use a liquidity injection, and definitely PumpFun is a candidate to go buy one of those. They want to become one of the biggest streaming platforms. They want to become one of the biggest social platforms, which is very ambitious. But look, if they acquire the right things, they have the right people involved, and they definitely have the money, they could get up in those categories as a social media platform. However, I think that's going to be a hard hurdle to get across, some of these killing Facebook or TikTok or Twitch. I think that that's pretty insane. But we'll see. You know, crypto native streaming platforms have never really gotten to that level. But let's jump into the pure numbers here. So I loved this tweet from 𝗪𝗚𝗙 as it actually really encompassed what I'm looking at here. So the correct comparison to this token is 100%, whether you like it or not, Hyperlquid. Hyperlquid right now is at like $40 billion market cap. However, I don't think it's going to reach hype levels. We have to tame those expectations. Hyperlquid is another one of those unicorns that also has a great perception, whereas the public perception on PumpFun is just not great whatsoever. So PumpFun revenue in June was 25 million, whereas hype revenue in June was 60 million. That's a 2.5x. The PumpFun market cap at sale is about 2.5 million or billion. The hype market cap is about 14 billion, which is a 6x. So things to consider. PumpFun revenue is on a big downtrend. On-chain has been getting hammered this year, and of course a lot of potential buy pressure is being absorbed by the massive sale, which has increased. So the buy pressure post-launch, as I mentioned, so that's a great point. There's a lot of people that will get involved through this ICO. So there's absorbing a lot of buy pressure post-sale. So a lot of sell pressure could come through the door right away. And of course, rumored 25% buybacks versus 97% on hype. So hype buys back their token every single day using a portion of their fees. And apparently the number that PumpFun is going to do is 25% of their daily revenue. So this is definitely a short-term trade. I don't want to sit in the PumpFun token for a very long time. If it goes to Hyperlquid levels, I'm happy to technically, I guess, miss the curve on that, for example. But for me, I do think in the short term, this has potential to go up to $6 to $8 billion, which is a 50% uptick from the $4 billion mark. So as 𝗪𝗚𝗙 says, short-term trade, the correct question is in 1 week, is $4 billion a cheap price at current numbers? The medium long-term view is you assume PumpFun remains king and go back up. So there is two cases here. For me, number one, you could... I'll say there's three cases actually. If you want to be smart money-esque, you could arbitrage this, get in at 4 billion, short the 5 billion, and then take the arb between that. But to be honest, it is a little more complex and advanced that way. My thesis is I would not be surprised to see this $6 billion. There's no reason it shouldn't be $6 billion in the short term. There could be a lot of sell pressure on that. So for me, I'm going to look at where the launch is. I might potentially short the actual launch. I would long the pre-markets, to be completely honest with you, on a price prediction standpoint. But for me, I'm going to look at where the val is. If the valuation is still at 4 billion, I might long that at the end of the day. And to be honest, I am going to get involved in the sale. I will be a buyer at the $4 billion level on an ICO this weekend. So first and foremost, I'm buying the $4 billion mark. I do think, just like Loop thinks here, that this will go up to potentially 6 bill. I really don't think that that is too far-fetched. And really, the only thing that matters long-term, at $4 billion coins are held up by memetic value alone. There are very few places that people can safely allocate big capital. Of all businesses in crypto, PumpFun has been indestructible. Despite FUD, despite people saying they're toxic for crypto, it's been around. It makes some of the most money in the industry. And when we've been looking back at the recent winners in the industry as far as altcoins, it's revenue generating platforms. And that's what PumpFun is. So I think there's way worse bets to take in this market. So in short, I'm not going short here. I am buying on Saturday. I'm going to get involved in the sale. I don't know what the caps are or anything like that, but I'm going to, get involved at the $4 billion mark on the sale. From there, I'm going to watch for the launch and see where this thing lands. I think $6 billion, like what 𝗪𝗚𝗙 thinks, is very fair value, but there's going to be a lot of sellers. People have been wrecked this cycle. People, especially in the meme coin casino, they're here to make their lick back. As they say, like 0.01% of traders on PumpFun made money. So that 99.9%, this is their opportunity to make money off the back of PumpFun without having to get wrecked in the meme coin trenches. So there's going to be a lot of profit taking. I might short the launch once it goes live, depending on the valuation, but I am a buyer in the pre-sales. So we're going to try to play that middle ground of I'll take some profits on my bag if it does hit that 6 billion on launch, like I do predict it could. But from there, I'm also going to short that because there's plenty of people that have that buy pressure absorbed in these pre-sales. The only people that are going to be sidelined are people with no KYC alternatives here in the US. But right now, you don't have to be sidelined. You can use platforms like NEXUS to go ahead and trade the pre-market. So if you're not already trading on NEXUS, I will leave a link down below in the description. But ultimately, I'm a buyer at 𝗕𝗏𝗀. I'm a shorter on launch because I know how many people need that liquidity. So they're looking here as a guaranteed win. Nothing is guaranteed in crypto, but I definitely think the initial launch is going to be at least 20 to 40% higher. Like it could launch at 5 bill and people are up 20% on that, and they could definitely take some profits there, short that initial. But after that airdrop sell pressure and that pre-sale sell pressure is gone, I'd be looking for a little bit of an appreciation in the short term. And maybe long term, if you believe meme coins are really the king of this cycle, this could be one of the best trades of the cycle. As PumpFun, that PumpFun revenue chart could literally be the token chart, right? If this was a token, you could see, at $13 billion market cap, they were making so much money here. You could probably see a crazy valuation on Pump token here. Once the meme coin trenches died, it did go back down. But look, at the peak of this cycle, their revenue numbers and meme coins themselves are probably going to be back in full force. So if you believe that, you should be a long-term trader. If you're looking to recoup money in the short term and have an altcoin win, I do think that pre-sale could be a very good opportunity. And then I'm just watching the markets after, potentially shorting the airdrop and sell pressure, and then who knows? I might be a long-term holder of part of my bag as a part of that pre-sale, just betting on the fact that I don't think meme coins are dead. I do think meme coins, the attention trade, as Elio has said about Black Hole's platform, liquidity and attention barbell. Meme coins are an attention trade, and I do think that will be top of the cycle. That time period, we're going to see meme coins come back in full force. So that's how I'm playing the PumpFun launch, guys. I do plan on getting involved in the sale, and I do plan on profiting on PumpFun, no matter how much I think PumpFun is toxic for crypto. That is my opinion, but I will be there front and center to make money on this launch. So you guys let me know down below in the comment section, what are your thoughts on PumpFun? Without PumpFun, there's no BullX, there's no Photon, there's no Axiom. Really, there's no NEXUS, like the way that we've structured our software here at NEXUS to be able to do longs and shorts on types of tokens like pump funds and the stock market, even with equities and stocks and different forex pairs and gold and silver. It really did drive so much demand into different trading platforms. So without PumpFun, a lot of these businesses wouldn't even exist. So you have to tip your cap to that. And I do think this is definitely something, if you have the access to get involved with on pre-sale, but definitely be diligent on taking profits as soon as possible. So guys, I'm out of here. I will see you guys whenever we do the black hole launch tutorial. I'm going to go over top to bottom how to maximize your profits and use black hole to your best of your abilities. That'll be the next video on this channel. I will see you guys then. As always, like the video down below, subscribe to the channel, play well, my friends, and of course, stay bullish, my friends.